Hello, welcome to the telemedicine session at VD Display Division here. You're gonna hear as a first guest about our initiatives about telemedicine, and this is the very first time we're announcing this step, and this is just the first step in a multi-year journey, and you're gonna get the sneak peek as the first group. Now, I'm gonna give you a little bit of an overview of what we're gonna be talking about here today. So I'm gonna talk about why we actually dived into this initiative, and who we actually work with, and how we actually made it happen, and ultimately talk about what we actually built. And we're gonna close with actually our distinguished guests actually coming here, and we're gonna have a bit of a panel so you guys can actually get your questions answered. Now let me talk about why we actually did this. Now the world has gone very remote. Everything has gone remote, and now that includes almost every part of your life. That includes shopping. Say for example, you are shopping on Amazon almost all the time, I know. And you're probably working from home, and that is probably a norm. That is not an exception anymore. And you're probably doing a lot of the eating kind of remotely too. And I'm not saying that you get satiated remotely, but you order Uber Eats or DoorDash, and you get a lot of that fulfilled. And even social nowadays, you don't even do that in person anymore. You use Instagram and you connect with the people remotely, and that's all just happening remotely. But there's just one area where the technology is so slow, which is healthcare. Now, healthcare can also be remote, and we call that telemedicine. And then just to give you a little bit of definition of what telemedicine is, it can be just not only just a video call, but it can be a phone call or just an email or just jumping on a regular text messaging with the doctors. In short, it's just any virtual interaction between a physician and a patient. Now, telemedicine saves time and money, and this is a little bit of a US-based statistics, but without actually telemedicine, you will have to wait about 2 weeks to actually see the doctor, and when it's time to see the doctor, you will have to spend about more than an hour actually traveling to and from the location of service. And it actually is very costly because the doctors will have to prepare a waiting room for you, and they will have to get the nurses and all of that ready for you. But with telemedicine, now obviously, you don't have to wait as long because you can actually find a doctor that is readily available for you. And you don't have to travel, obviously, because everything is done at the comfort of your home. And it can be a lot cheaper because now you don't need a waiting room. It's going to be your living room, and there's a lot of benefits to it. Now, it's obvious that telemedicine is very great for everyone. Now, the question is, why aren't people doing enough of it? We found some of the answers in what they use in order to actually conduct this telemedicine session. Now, they use tablets, PCs, and mobiles, and these are great devices for a lot of the reasons. Now, when it comes to telemedicine, there are pros and cons on using these devices. Now, when it actually comes down to say you have a sick baby that you have to take care of, obviously having a non-stationary device is going to get your hands a little occupied, and that's not going to be the easiest interaction. Or say you have a little bit of farsightedness, maybe the small screen is really not really immersive for you. So to actually help spread this technology, we decided to bring telemedicine to our visual display products, which has large screens. And now people can have a lot more immersive experience, and that will engage people a lot better with the doctors. And so that will actually expand the technology further and to more people. Now the reason is very clear. The question is, who will actually have to do this? While Samsung is known for many great things, but we're not really well known for a healthcare company. So we actually invited our external partner, HealthTap, who is an expert in this field. Just to give you a little bit of a brief introduction on what HealthTap is, they were founded in 2010, and they started as a medical Q&A platform. And they expanded their service from connecting the doctors to patients and getting their questions answers to actually meeting them in person in 2014. So they launched a video call like telemedicine session capabilities in 2014, and they've been in this business for quite a while. Just in the last 12 months, they had more than 22 million users, and they acquired more than 300,000 new accounts, and there were about 100,000 doctor visits and answers, and cumulatively there's 2.8 million doctor questions and answers, and they've been loved by the consumers, they're rated 4.9 rating out of 5.0 rating. So without me talking a little too much, let's just take a look at the video. Great, so they're the experts in this. Now the question is, how did we do it? We actually first met in just April of this year, and we first discussed what we're gonna do in order to actually get this initiative launched. What are we gonna do together? And we decided to collaborate somewhere around June, and HealthTap started developing a telemedicine application in July. So what you're gonna see in a few moments' time is something that we built in the last 3 months. And it's by no means complete. It's MVP, and there is a lot of work to do, but we wanted to first just give you a little bit of sneak peek into what you can actually do in a short period of time with the Tizen and with us. So let's take a quick look at what we actually have built in the last 3 months. Let's take a look at the video. So what you just saw here, just because it's such a high resolution video, it might look fake, but it's actually something that we really built. So it is something that will be introduced next year. And this collaboration represents Samsung and HealthTap's dedication to our consumers who deserve better care and better access to improve the health outcomes. We aspire to do this by rigorously innovating and simply doing what is right for everyone. Now, I want to introduce the heroes who actually made this happen. I have 4 distinguished guests from HealthTap who were behind this effort. Now, the first is Dr. Jeff Rutledge. He is a CMO and a co-founder of HealthTap and has been around with HealthTap for more than a decade. And the second is Karishma Jadeja. She is the Director of Product, Paid Growth, and Member Experience, and she's been with the HealthTap for some time. And the next is Hamad Salim. He is a Chief Innovation Officer. And last but not least is Adam Jang, who was behind this effort as a real person who's really making a lot of this happen. He's a senior engineer at HealthTap. And lastly, well, I said the last twice, but I am the product manager who had the privilege of working with HealthTap for the past 6 months. Now, welcome all the HealthTap guests here with a round of applause. All right, welcome. So I invited the HealthCap guests here so that you guys can actually hear from the actual developers who actually built this from the get-go, and they had to acquaint themselves with Tizen in the past 6 months, right? So I have some questions just to hear your thoughts about this whole thing. And so the first question that I have is, tell us about your vision in delivering telemedicine to the consumers. I don't know who will answer first, but here's the mic.
Hi. We started this company 12 years ago because we had the vision that people ought to be able to get care on their mobile devices. We recognized that it was possible to build a technology platform that would make healthcare much more accessible, more convenient, highly effective, and also more affordable. I'm delighted to say that now we have implemented and are running a nationwide virtual primary care service, a service where people are able to look at and choose a doctor for themselves, connect with that doctor, and have that doctor be the doctor that manages them for ongoing primary care. The doctors they choose from are doctors who are highly experienced, they're qualified, board certified, and most important, highly compassionate and committed to being people's doctors and actually delivering primary care on an ongoing basis. The service also allows people, once they've engaged with a doctor and made that doctor their doctor, connect with the doctor by text, which is really important for managing particularly people that have ongoing conditions where connecting with their doctor in between visits is a really important part of the ongoing care. What's more, our service also has a really quite remarkable ability to ask questions, content or informational questions, because we've engaged more than 90,000 US licensed doctors on our platform who answer questions. So you can ask an informational question and get answers from doctors and specialties. We have 147 different specialties represented within that network, and over the past decade, we've accumulated more than 2.8 million answers written by those doctors. So it turns out that most questions, when they're asked, already have a good answer. But if they don't, if it's a new question or a new twist, then we send that question to the network of doctors, and answers come from those specialists, usually within a few hours and almost always within the day. So we're really delighted with that service as it works today. And frankly, it's been a delight, and we are honored, Sean, to be working with you and the remarkable Samsung team to be able to deploy this remarkable and needed service on Samsung TVs. We're looking forward to working together with you to allow and enable our doctors to deliver house calls right into the living rooms of everyone.
I'm also very excited, and it's been a privilege working with you guys as well. So I have a second question, so I want to hear more of your voice. The second question is, what is your vision when you actually decided to work with us? What was your vision in building this product with us?
Yeah, I can take a pass at this. So fundamentally at HealthTap, we believe that in order to reach consumers, you have to meet them where they are. And the reality is that in today's day and age, anytime anyone has a health question or they're sick, they rarely start by going to a clinic or going to a pharmacy. In fact, the research usually starts at home on your mobile device. We have Google outside. It starts there, pretty much. And with Samsung, truly, we see an opportunity to reach these consumers better anytime they have a health question or they need the guidance of a doctor. Because what happens is when you bring your personal doctor into your living room, and you put them in the TV screens throughout your home, you now literally have them just one simple tap away from your remote control button. So I think that's an incredibly powerful mission, and that's kind of what we're hoping to build together with Samsung, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm very excited to actually see this being more accessible to a lot more people, and I think that'll be actually a great experience for the consumers as well. And the next question I have here is, can you kind of briefly describe your experience having worked with Samsung now that it's been about 6 months? I think you guys can voice to this what your experience has been like. So anyone want to take a stab at this?
So yeah, after 6 months of pretty much meeting with you regularly, Sean, I would say it's been a delight working with you especially. And let me just step back and say, anytime you're trying to create some magic, you have to bring multiple teams together, right? But that's not enough. Those teams really need to have a shared set of values. And they should also respect each other's competencies. And so I think that's really what we saw working with Samsung. Then I would also say, okay, so what are those values that we figured out that we are pretty much aligned on? Firstly, the commitment to innovation, then great consumer experience and impact. And we were very delighted to actually see that like in our partnership together. The next thing I would say is together, I think we were both pretty motivated and passionate about creating new experiences that leverage technology to make people's lives healthier and happier. So that was awesome. What else? I mean, there are more values that that we can talk about, but I think I'll stop here.
Yeah, I think I experienced similar things. You know, when we have the shared value, you know, a lot of the decision making together actually becomes a lot easier, and it's been a delight actually working, you know, and really prioritizing what is the most important as we work together. The last question I actually have here is, now maybe I'm gonna ask actually the person who's been actually behind this effort coding this. Can you just briefly explain to us your experience with Tizen in the past few months, and say for the next developers who come in, what would you advise for the new developers as they get started on Tizen?
All right. Well, let's just say that this was definitely our first foray onto the TV space. But honestly, Tizen made it pretty simple for us, basically. So I myself am a web developer, right? So what Tizen allowed us to do basically is focus on what we do best, which is web development. And then we could just literally think of the TV as a natural extension. So that worked really well. And then on top of that, basically, you just need a bit more, right? You need a bit of a TV-centric UX, as you saw in the demo there, basically. And really, just a bit of configuration, and everything else works out great.
Great, thank you so much. Now, maybe some of the guests here, I want to open up the questions to more of the guests here. If you have any spontaneous questions that you guys want to ask, we'll take the questions. I see one gentleman actually having a question. Can we get a mic to the gentleman there?
Hi. I wanted to know how do you integrate, say, insurance agencies, the first thing. And second question is, say, prescription drugs side of things. If somebody has to prescribe something, how does that work?
Sorry, I think I missed the second question. Can you repeat the second one?
Prescription drugs. Like if somebody has to be prescribed a medicine, and how does that work?
I'm going to let Jeff go first on the prescription side, and then I'll take the insurance side of this.
Sure. In our system, the doctor can prescribe for the patient the medications through an electronic prescribing capability. And those prescriptions are sent through SureScripts directly to the retail pharmacy for the patient to pick up. We do have enabled a discount drug program, and we show both the doctor at the time they're writing the prescription what it's likely to cost the patient, and after the prescription's written, we show the patient alternatives for what the medication would cost at different pharmacies, giving people the option to find the pharmacy that actually has a better deal or that takes the discount coupon and gives them a better rate on that. And you want to chat about health plans?
The insurance, yeah. So yeah, I think anytime anyone thinks about insurance and claims, we all get a little worried. It's a pretty complicated system to navigate. So at HealthTap, we actually partner with a bunch of vendors who help us make that super simple for our users. So from a consumer standpoint, all you need to do is actually give us your insurance plan information, and then HealthTap works behind the scenes with the different plans through our vendor to get enrolled with them, to process claims, to handle all your payment stuff for you. You pretty much see 2 steps or 2 screens, and everything else happens behind the scenes. So we completely try to remove the hassle for you as a consumer.
Can I take, Jeff, you want to?
Well, I just wanted to add that the service is so affordable. I mean, it's crazy. The actual incremental cost for a visit, once you're a subscriber for $15 a month, a visit is only $39. Many people pay $30 as a copay when they're using their insurance. So the difference between using your insurance, which we accept and you can use and so on, and the full price is actually pretty small.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about our cash prices.
I think we have another question from the gentleman here.
I'm fascinated with. Hi. Okay. I'm fascinated with this. So 2 questions in one. The first, what open APIs do you have for developers? So if, as a programmer, I want to interact with your application, is there an open API for me to use? That's one. And the second one is this.
While you're thinking the second question, I'm going to try to answer the first question, but I think actually I am not an engineer, so I think I have to defer the questions later to the actual developers, because I am actually not a developer myself, so I don't know actually what open APIs all are available. But the key one that we try to actually implement here was really the connectivity, WebRTC connectivity, which is based on a Chromium, which we actually support. And most of it is just web development. I think Adam can actually attest to this. You have worked actually implementing this one, so can you just give us a little description of how you actually worked through your experience working? What are some of the APIs that you had to use and your experience with it?
Okay, so as a web developer, on our platform, basically, we have internal APIs, right? So from a web perspective, I just call the backend APIs directly. As for the availability of our backend APIs to Open Portal, we used to have a dev portal, basically, but Hamad can probably speak better to that.
Yeah.
So if you're referring to the Health Tabs APIs, then all of our applications are built basically using OAuth, and we also treat our applications as clients to that same platform. So we can easily add other third-party developers. It's just a business choice that we haven't exposed it to third parties at this point.
Now the second question. So the second question is this. So with my Apple Watch,
One second, sorry for cutting you off. We have actually time for just one more question. So I know that this one gentleman actually wanted to ask a different question. If you actually have time, we can just meet in the back and then we'll answer your question right away.
Sure. This is for the co-founder. How do you envision using computer vision on the camera to scan the person's body and so on to do an AI to provide some kind of prediction?
It's a really good point. Once you are delivering healthcare on a digital platform, then amazing other opportunities exist. Right? We're in the business right now of growing and initiating the service as it is because it works, connecting doctors to patients, and ultimately the doctors, the AI, if you will. Our AI is artificial, we use people in the first step. Now we actually have AI on the back end that do other things, looking at the data and the interaction between the doctor and the patient to support that care given by doctors. So for example, by doing an automated patient interview in advance, we can identify a set of possible things that the doctor should consider and show the doctor at the point of care potential diagnoses for this patient at the time to support. We've actually done research to show that when you give doctors that information, they actually do a better job reminding them of things they already know. That's one aspect of AI. But you raised the issue of computer vision. There's a whole variety of things that can be done with AI to support the interaction. For example, detecting emotional state of the patient based on the audio and the visual video from the patient. And we envision rolling out enhanced features and functions to support the interaction between the doctors and the patient when they're getting care on the digital platform.
Sorry for cutting your second question. I definitely apologize, but I didn't realize we were running out of time. We are available in the back, just outside of this session room, so we can answer more questions that you have. So please meet us in the back here if you have any more questions. Thank you very much for Health Tab to actually join us here today, and thank you very much for joining the session.